Venezuela celebrates the canonization of Saints Jose Gregorio Hernandez and Mother Carmen Rendiles, the first saints of the South American nation. In Peru, the National Association of Journalists reported brutal police repression that included at least 25 attacks on journalists during anti-government protests. And in Palestine, plans are being implemented to reconstruct, and humanitarian aid is entering the territory while most residents are displaced and struggle to survive in a paralyzed economy. Hello, welcome to From the South. I'm Luis Alberto Matos from the teleSUR studios in Havana, Cuba. We begin with the news. In a ceremony led by Pope Leo XIV at St. Peter's Basilica in Vatican City, Mother Carmen Rendiles and Dr. Jose Gregorio Hernandez were canonized, becoming the first Venezuelan blessed to ascend to sainthood. Thousands of faithful and official delegations celebrated the canonization of 7 new saints of the Catholic Church. In this scenario, Pope Leo XIV highlighted the importance of these figures as living testimonies of faith, charity, and commitment to the most vulnerable. The canonization of Mother Carmen Rendiles and Dr. Jose Gregorio Hernandez has been the most anticipated event for the Venezuelan Catholic Church in decades. This is a transcendental milestone as they are the first Venezuelan saints, an act of ecclesial recognition that honors the legacy of faith and service of both figures. In Venezuela, faithful celebrate the historic canonization of Saints Jose Gregorio Hernandez and Mother Carmen Rendiles. Amid songs and fireworks, people of Trujillo held a vigil to celebrate the canonization of Dr. Jose Gregorio Hernandez and Mother Carmen Rendiles. This symbolic act connects the universal proclamation with the epicenter of popular devotion in Venezuela, sealing a historic moment. It is worth noting that the fervor of this vigil reflects the long journey of faith and the immense popular devotion that preceded the proclamation of the first saints of the South American nation. And as part of the celebration of Saints Jose Gregorio Hernandez and Mother Carmen Rendiles in Istmo II, the faithful and devoted held a procession in honor of the first Venezuelan saints. It should be noted that the holiness of Saint Jose Gregorio Hernandez was officially approved on February 25th, 2025 by Pope Francis, who ratified the favorable votes received in the ordinary session of the Cardinal Fathers and Bishops of the Congregation for the Causes of Saints. Also from the Venezuelan capital, from Candelaria Square, citizens joined the canonization vigil entitled Saints for All, an event of faith and popular unity for all capital residents near the area. This historic event celebrated with songs, exhibitions, community renewals, restorations, new bells, and many prayers that rise up through the streets of Caracas in gratitude for the miracles granted by Saint Jose Gregorio Hernandez and Mother Carmen Rendiles. And amidst fireworks and prayers from La Guaira, parishioners celebrate the canonization of Saints Jose Gregorio Hernandez and Mother Carmen Rendiles. Hundreds of faithful attended the event as a sign of gratitude to Saint Jose Gregorio Hernandez for the miracles performed in his life. This ecclesiastical recognition not only honors the legacy of faith and service of these two figures, but also marks a transcendental milestone as they are the first Venezuelan blessed to be elevated to sainthood. In other topics, the Colombian senator and president of the Colombia Humana political movement, Gloria Inés Flores Snyder, condemned the government of the United States' actions against Venezuela in a statement. The communique begins by saying, "In times when war drums are beating, we in the Caribbean are committed to beating the drums of peace for the dignity and joy of the peoples. Today, more than ever, the world must raise its voice and firmly reject the threat of military intervention against our sister Republic of Venezuela and against all of Latin America and the Caribbean." The statement continues, "The actions of the U.S. government not only constitute a dangerous military escalation in one of the few areas of the world that has been declared a continent of peace, but also violate international public law and international human rights law, including the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea, which expressly prohibits attacks on civilian vessels in international waters." It concludes, "We demand an immediate end to this imperialist aggression and all forms of interference in the internal affairs of our region. We do not want to see the CIA destabilizing countries again, nor do we want to relive dark chapters of Latin American history, such as the Plan Condor, the coup against Allende, the intervention in Grenada, the invasion of El Chorrillo in Panama, Playa Girón, and so many other interventions that left death, dispossession, and desolation in their wake. It is urgent to defend the right of the peoples of our America and the world to sovereignty, self-determination, and peace." Meanwhile, in Trinidad and Tobago, on behalf of the Assembly of the Peoples of the Caribbean, Assembly member David Abdullah requested a meeting with the heads of government of CARICOM to adopt a position regarding the threat posed by United States military deployment.
It was a call to the people of the Caribbean that we must stand firm, that the Caribbean must remain a zone of peace, that there should be no U.S. intervention. We declared that the sovereignty of the nation states of our region is not and must not be up for sale, that regional unity and integration are crucial to our development and survival in the context of a changing global order, and therefore call on CARICOM heads of government to meet urgently on this emerging situation and to adopt a unified position.
David Abdullah also condemned the alleged creation by the United States of an international coalition to intervene in Venezuela.
Denounced the so-called creation by the U.S. of an international coalition against narco-trafficking, as it is a seed of an alliance of a minority of states in this hemisphere that will be used to create some cloak of legality under the OAS to intervene in Venezuela, as was attempted and failed through the so-called Lima Group. And we further call on these governments not to allow the U.S. to use their countries as a military staging point to attack any sovereign state.
We now have our first break coming up. Remember, you can join us on TikTok at teleSUR English, where you'll find news in different formats, news updates, and much more. We'll be right back. Stay with us. Welcome back. In Peru, the National Association of Journalists reported brutal police repression that left at least 25 attacks on journalists during anti-government protests. According to the Press Freedom Observatory report of the National Association of Journalists of Peru, detailed that the state violence was intensified in recent mobilizations against the government and Congress. Reported that 14 attacks were carried out with rubber bullets and 11 physical assaults were recorded specifically against journalists carrying out their work. The day of protest, far from being isolated, ended in tragedy. During the repression, a police officer fired his weapon at a protester, causing his death. Confirmed by Ombudsman's office, confirmed the death, also reporting more than 100 wounded and 10 detained in a clear scene of disproportionate use of force. The Confederation of Indigenous Nationalities of Ecuador denounced on Saturday the suspension of the Iti Pasha radio signal in what it described as a direct attack on freedom of expression and indigenous communication. The community media outlet was sanctioned by the Telecommunications Regulations and Control Agency with a 15-day suspension of its broadcast in the context of the protests against the government of Daniel Noboa. The indigenous movement condemned the measure as a punishment for popular and community communication and vowed to continue speaking out. The organization noted that this is part of a pattern, citing the suspensions of Radio Ilumin and TV MIC, as well as signal blocking and harassment of community communicators. And in Chile, an artistic and civic intervention was held on Saturday to commemorate those who died or were injured during the 2019 social unrest. Many Chileans have gathered at iconic locations such as Plaza Italia to keep the memory of what happened alive and demand that the promises of change and justice not be forgotten. Although the Constitutional Convention concluded its work and the proposed new constitution was rejected in a plebiscite, the legacy of the social movement continues to influence political and social debate in Chile. Elsewhere, protesters painted bodies under the slogan, "We will not forget," and remember the names of the 11,000 victims of illegitimate coercion. And thousands of protesters took to the streets of various cities in the United States on Saturday, called to action by the progressive network No Kings to reject the authoritarian and monarchical behavior of President Donald Trump. The protest is taking place in the context of the government shutdown and growing institutional tension in the country, which has been going on for almost 3 weeks. This is the third mass mobilization since President Trump's return to the White House. Previous protests in June followed a military parade that critics call a display of personal vanity by the president. In response to the outflow of protests, the U.S. government ordered the deployment of the National Guard to control the mobilizations. Meanwhile, hundreds of U.S. citizens gathered in Spain's capital city to condemn President Donald Trump's actions. The day was marked by slogans and posters rejecting the closure of public programs and federal services imposed by Donald Trump. Protesters asserted that the U.S. government is taking authoritarian measures before the National Congress. At the same time, other European cities are also mobilizing against the Trump administration as part of the No Kings protest. And in this context, thousands of United Kingdom citizens gathered at the U.S. Embassy in London to express their rejection of the policies promoted by U.S. President Donald Trump. With flags and slogans, protesters condemned budget cuts to public services and condemned anti-immigration policies in the United States.
Anyway, here it is. Impeach Trump.
In this regard, hundreds in France, especially U.S. expatriates, gathered in the center of Paris in support of the No Kings movement. This demonstration rejects the policies of U.S. President Donald Trump. Participants chanted slogans against the U.S. administration and displayed posters supporting the protests taking place in several U.S. cities.
Demonstrations around the world in Amsterdam, in London, in Berlin, in Sydney.
We now have our second break coming up. Before we invite you to visit our Facebook page at teleSUR English, they will be able to watch our top stories, special live coverage, and much more. Follow our page and activate the notification button to stay up to date on the world's most recent events. A final break, don't go away. Welcome back. The situation in Palestine remains difficult for Gaza days after the ceasefire between Israel and Hamas. Plans are being implemented to reconstruct, and humanitarian aid is entering the territory. Most residents are displaced and struggle to survive in a paralyzed economy with severe shortages of food, water, and other necessities despite the constant fear of a new attack. The genocide has caused widespread destruction and continues to affect society by driving it off livelihoods. Most Gazans lost their sources of income, whether it was business, agriculture, or daily work. According to medical sources, the Israeli escalation that intensified on October 7, 2023, has so far caused 67,967 deaths and 170,179 injuries. The Palestinian resistance movement Hamas accused Israel of violating the ceasefire agreement in the Gaza Strip. Hamas denounced that the Israeli army has violated the agreement more than 47 times after carrying out attacks against the people of Gaza, resulting in the killing of 38 people. Hamas emphasized that these attacks include direct fire against civilians, bombings, and arbitrary detentions. In addition, health authorities stated that most of the people killed were trying to return to their homes, which they had left due to the Zionist genocide. Meanwhile, Israel handed over the remains of 15 Palestinians killed in the Gaza Strip. Hospitals in the Strip report that the remains were handed over through the International Committee of the Red Cross, bringing the total number of bodies received to 135. Medical teams continue to handle the bodies in accordance with established medical procedures and protocols in preparation for examination, documentation, and eventual handover to the families for burial. And in South Korea, multiple citizens gathered in front of the U.S. Embassy to demand an end to the Israeli offensive and denounce the genocide in the Gaza Strip. Hundreds of activists demonstrated in Seoul in solidarity with the Palestinian people against Israel's military campaign in Gaza. The peaceful mobilization reflected the global movement's demand for condemnation of war crimes on Gaza, backed by the U.S. Participants waved Palestinian flags and chanted in support of the resistance of the Gazan people. In addition, as a symbolic act of rejection and popular condemnation, protesters threw their shoes at a bloody poster displaying the image of Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. And on Saturday, one person died as a result of an attack by an Israeli drone on a vehicle in the town of Deir Kifa in southern Lebanon. Lebanese authorities have repeatedly denounced Israel over continued violations of Lebanese sovereignty despite a ceasefire agreement in November 2024. The Israeli Defense Forces maintain a presence at 5 strategic points in southern Lebanon, which Beirut authorities consider a continued occupation and a violation of United Nations Security Council Resolution 1701. According to data from the Lebanese Ministry of the Interior, Israel has carried out more than 4,500 raids into the territory of the Republic since the beginning of 2025, resulting in 253 deaths and 688 injuries. In other news, Bangladesh canceled flights after a massive fire at Dhaka International Airport. Authorities reported that 37 firefighters and police forces fought the fire to prevent the flames from spreading to other facilities. Flights were canceled and passengers were transferred to other airports. So far, only 4 people have been taken to hospitals due to smoke inhalations, and flights were resumed later in the day. In the Philippines, flooding caused by Tropical Storm Fengshen, making thousands of citizens leave their homes. The Weather Service has stated that the storm will pass close to the province of Catanduanes, leading to heavy rainfall and a minimum to moderate risk of coastal flooding from waves ranging from 1 to 2 meters. In response to the developing situation, over 9,000 residents relocated to safety, marking the first instance of this cyclone impacting the people. Neighboring provinces, including Sorsogon and Albay, have requested a preventive evacuation, but the number of people involved was unknown. The Mexican government confirmed this Saturday that more than a week after heavy rains hit several states, the death toll rose to 76, while 39 people are missing or unaccounted for. As of last Friday, 72 people had been reported dead and 48 missing. The decrease in the number of missing persons is associated with the rescue efforts, cleaning, sanitation, and support efforts carried out by the government in the affected areas, which has also been accompanied by the President, Claudia Sheinbaum. They also report that Veracruz has been the state with the highest number of deaths, with a total of 34, while 14 people remain missing. Hidalgo follows with 22 dead and 20 missing, Puebla with 19 dead and 5 missing, and Querétaro with 1 death. Like this, we have come to the end of this news brief. You can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. So join us on social media, Facebook, X, Instagram, Telegram, and TikTok. For TeleSUR English, I'm Luis Alberto Matos. Thank you for watching.